faith in humanity. I mean, can you imagine these people in the middle of all this created democracy? Who would imagine a situation like democracy? Unheard of before, that the power could go to the people, that each person could develop his or her own potential, okay? Not only that, they invented theater, something you take for granted today. Theater is an opportunity. What is theater? It's an opportunity for us to look at ourselves. And above all, what I personally find astounding is that they discovered and, invented comedy. Before that, people just didn't laugh. You could not laugh really publicly. It was not considered the thing to do, especially not for leaders. Imagine the great leap that took place when humanity went from despotic, fear-based situation into a situation where you can actually laugh and make it an institution, such as comedy. This is something that we take for granted today. And in order for you to get that feeling, because now you've passed that message mentally, we're going to do the exercise with the candles, okay? I want us to go back. My friend Yanis will soon close the lights. And I would like the assistants to go around with the candles, and we're just going to light those candles one by one. And I would like you all to help to spread this light, like the light was spread in ancient Greece. Spread it around to your friends and to your associates. Spread that candle around. So in this extreme darkness that was taking place in civilization before ancient Greece, what we have, share that light with your colleagues, please. What we have is this slowly and gentle spread of the human spirit. Okay, I want you to just get into that feeling and understand what happened in ancient Greece. From the darkness, we went from a situation where instead of darkness and fear, there came a situation of courage and love and light and even laughter. These are not things to be taken for granted. In our day and age, you realize that these ideas are very sensitive and they're being questioned and even threatened. Questions like democracy and faith and compassion for each other and leadership, these are concepts which even today are very fragile. So look around. Where there was darkness, now what do you have? Very beautifully lighted room. Okay, I just wanted to, I want to hear some applause for that. Thank you for participating in that. Okay, turn on the lights again. Okay, so just as we just spread the light now to each other, that's what they did in ancient Greece. The first man to do this was Thales of Miletus. In about 500 BC, he said, hey, you know what? Nature doesn't have to be some mystical monsters. Thunder is not necessarily something mystical and, dangerous. What is thunder? So he took the scientific approach, what we consider today natural. He said, you know what? Let's analyze these things. So they gave birth to the first scientific mind. So this was a great leap, just as we showed today with our demonstration. And then these schools, just like the lights, started mushrooming. After Thales, the Pythagorean school in what is today southern Italy. Pythagoras was a Greek philosopher and worked a lot with numbers, geometry, measuring. I mean, there was a great thirst for knowledge and a systematic thirst for knowledge. Then was founded the Eleatic school. The Eleatic school even came up with this bizarre concept, which people think much later was invented by the Jews, the first monotheistic religion. No, the Eleatic school said, you know what, there is one God. Not many gods, not polytheism. There's one universal force, he called it. He didn't call it a god, he called it a force. Something like quantum physicists today are telling us of the GUF, Grand Unified Force. So, very similar things happening in ancient Greece and in today. Then came be pluralists and the atomists. The theory of the atom was invented at that time. So these schools just started mushrooming, and the light began to spread from ancient Greece to other places. The sophists were traveling philosophers, traveling teachers, if you like, much in the same way that you have management gurus today, traveling from country to country. You have Peter Drucker, you have Edward de Bono, you have big names traveling. These are the modern day sophists, spreading their knowledge to classes which had just grown out of the agricultural revolution. So the Greeks had an agrarian revolution, they moved to commercial revolution, and therefore you had a wealthy middle class in ancient Greece, and they wanted their sons and daughters to be educated by the sophists in these leadership academies. And that is when the famous quote, "Man is the measure of all things." Yes, not some despotic ruler, not something greater than you or me, but you and I are the measure of all things. This was another of those leaps that I was discussing. And then came the man, the teacher of teachers, the guru of gurus, the great Socrates. And he has said so many wise things that it's impossible to talk about these in 1 hour. But one of the things that I believe are very useful and which represents the spirit of ancient Greece is this: he who would like to change the world should change himself first, okay? This is, you know, proactive thinking. It's not passive thinking. It's not, oh, well, let's wait and see what happens, inshallah. This is okay, but most importantly, help God help you. Help the force help you. That if you don't change, how is the world going to change? So this was a revolution again in thought. He helped people to think of themselves, think for themselves, exercise critical thinking. Okay, why should there be despotism? Why should we spend millions of funds building a pyramid for one pharaoh? Why don't we do something for the people? So these revolutions and critical thinking started happening because of these schools. He stressed self-examination and, self-reflection. And his protege, Plato, his prime student, founded another leadership academy. He called it the Academia. And again, following in the footsteps of his master, he showed the youth issues like ethics, beauty, truth, justice. So they were looking to build a universal leader, a leader who would not just be a military leader, but a person and an enlightened person as such. Continuing was Aristotle. Now Aristotle is famous for many things, a great scientist in essence, but also famous, of course, for being the great tutor of Alexander the Great. Okay, Alexander the Great, the first global thinker of the times. I don't know if you're aware of the speech of Alexander. Alexander once said, "For me, there's no such thing as a Greek and a non-Greek. There's no such thing as a black person or a white person or a yellow person. These are ridiculous concepts." He said there are only people with virtue and hard work. And these are the people that interests me. If they are virtuous and hardworking, then I will make them leaders in my empire. So this was extremely advanced thinking for the time when you consider that racial issues only became something for the Western civilization in the late 60s. So one of the great things of Alexander the Great, I don't know how many of you are aware of it. What is the difference between Darius or Xerxes and Alexander the Great? What did he do that was different? The main thing he did was he fought in front of his army, okay? While Xerxes or Darius would just send the myriads of soldiers, to their death, Alexander said, I'm going to be an example for my soldiers. And this is leadership quality. This is what a leader does. He is a living example. He goes out ahead in front of everybody else and says, if you're going to die, I'm going to die too.